This is the Resilience Code, turning adversity into strength, one story at a time. I am your host, Arbaina Kawilan, and if you ever have a story of your own, there's a link in my bio. We've gone underground with roots. We've faced storms. We've stretched our branches, shed our leaves, bloomed, even borne fruit, and planted our seeds. But when a tree matures, it gives something back. And one of the greatest gifts a tree offers is shade. Shade is shelter, protection, rest. And the thing is, the tree never enjoys its own shade. That gift is for others. For me, resilience became shade. Not the kind of shelter that is made of walls or roofs. Those didn't always hold for me. But something inside me kept building anyway, even when I didn't realize it. As a kid, the places I lived in weren't always safe. The people around me didn't always protect me. But something else was forming in those cracks. A shelter that didn't come from the outside. It was quiet, invisible, but it was there. That was resilience. When I became a mom, that shelter showed up in ways I didn't even understand. I stayed in marriages that were breaking me, not because I wanted to, but because I thought my kids needed stability. I became the breadwinner when my first husband wouldn't, carrying the weight of the whole family on my back. And when I left the Philippines, it wasn't just for me. It was because I wanted to give my kids a future that I didn't have. Resilience wasn't only survival anymore, it became shade, a cover I was laying over them, even when I didn't feel covered myself. Coming to the US was like stepping into the heat with no umbrella. I worked jobs that I've never done before, nor technically aligns with what I finished university for. And I had days where I worked two jobs, 8 hours of back to back, 16 hours in total. I didn't know how I survived, but I guess that was the resilience in me. Not just for me, but for my children. I fought through a pandemic while being estranged from my kids, not knowing if they were okay. And when I finally walked away from my second marriage, I didn't have I didn't even have a roof on my own. I've shared I've shared before how that moment stripped me of everything. But the truth is, even then, resilience was the only shelter I had. It became my roof when I had none. That's the kind of shade that I had to carry inside me. And that same shade carried me into TEDx. When I found my coach, I seriously didn't have the means to pursue him or to pursue TEDx. But something in me felt like I needed to do this, that I had to figure out a way. My credit was horrible. Some friends, when I asked them for money, when I would borrow money from them, told me that I should just use a credit card. And if you're familiar with divorcing in the United States and obviously being homeless after the fact, it literally affects your credit. And I'm still recovering from that almost 4 years later. When I decided to do the TEDx, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I am still living paycheck to paycheck like most of us. But I knew that I had to do it. I knew that I had to tell a story of resilience that I always had, even as a child. Not because my ego wants me to, but because I had this calling, I had this feeling that it is needed. I I have this blind faith that if I just take the step, the path and the resources will show up. And it did. It did. I started crowdfunding. People showed up for me. I had friends that I could borrow money from. They showed up for me. And I made my calling and my dream happen 3 weeks ago. Only because I wanted to share my shade to others. And when I said, when a tree matures, you don't really have to fully mature or to have everything that you need for you to start sharing your shade. You can start where you are. Because I knew that my story, this story wasn't just mine. And even now, weeks later, when I don't see the fruits yet, which is honestly driving me crazy, I remind myself that shade doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like survival. Sometimes it just looks like hope. That's the gift of shade. Your survival becomes someone else's shelter. Your scars becomes someone else's reminder that they can keep going. I didn't grow up in in a shelter, in a safe shelter, but somewhere along the way, I became it. I am becoming it. And maybe you have too. So, here's what I want to leave you with. Who's been sitting in your shade, maybe without you realizing it? Who gave you the shade when you couldn't stand the heat? And what does it look like to keep offering shelter even while your story is still unfolding? Because resilience It's about softening the heat for others, even when you're still learning how to rest in the shade yourself. That's it for today's story. If it stayed with you, sit with it. If it helped, pass it on. And if you've got something of your own, there's a link in my bio. You don't have to fix it, just name it. And always remember, resilience isn't about pretending you're